Welcome to Vibrant Life, episode 54. My name is Jessica Parker. I'm a holistic health coach with a master's in health psychology and a fitness instructor. Today is March 1st. Happy March 2023. It is a Wednesday. And tonight we're going to talk about upper cervical chiropractor. So this is more of a personal story. I've talked about it before, but I've never just done an episode on it. And really, I wanted to share because I've been going to an upper cervical chiropractor for several years now. And then recently I had an incident that kind of reminded me of why I do it. Because sometimes I feel like we do certain things, we make certain changes in our life and we feel better. And then, we keep doing it and it's great, but we start to take it for granted. For example, with gluten. I took gluten out of my diet quite a while ago. I'm more keto carnivore, and so gluten not in your diet is a thing, just naturally. But this is a whole nother thing, a whole nother topic, but I don't believe people should be eating it because of the glyphosate in it primarily. Anyway, so I feel better not having it. I'm not super reactive to it, but I notice that when I do have it, then especially the next day, I feel kind of like I have this little gluten hangover. Same with if I have a lot of carbs. I have a carb hangover where I just feel kind of, less energy and a little brain fog and, not quite myself. So I just feel a lot better without it. And I know what it can do to you long term. But when I do have it, then it's a good reminder of, oh, you know what? That's why I'm not eating it. To really tell the story, I will kind of rewind a little bit and all the way back to when I was a kid and I had migraines so bad that I would throw up. And this is when I was in elementary school, probably, I don't know, 4th grade or something. And my mom had a chiropractor and she took me to the chiropractor and he adjusted my neck. I believe I went more than once, but not very many times, maybe just 2. I don't know. It's been a long time. It's been a few years, but I don't have headaches anymore. I've never had another migraine and headaches just aren't a thing for me really. So that was my only experience with any kind of neck adjustment. And then you fast forward and then I started having all of these autoimmune neurological issues, which, I have shared in previous episodes, previous YouTube videos about my journey. I think it's been 4 years now when I had kind of a health crisis, and fast forward, I've been told I could have MS, which takes years sometimes to diagnose. It's very, very hard to diagnose. And then I believe that I could have mercury toxicity based on the fact that I had mercury, my mercury amalgams worked on quite close to when this event happened. Anyway, there's a number of things that can be happening. Mercury toxicity can mimic MS or it can cause MS. So I had the rest of my amalgams safely removed and am going to detox. It loves your brain. So that's where it loves to live, and organs as well, but it loves your brain. So mercury is hard to test for as well. I'm not going to go into detail with that right now, but I will say that my plan is to detox, and it's going to take some effort. However, in the meantime, since I had my health crisis, I have just gone down so many rabbit holes, as you do when you feel like the rug was ripped out from underneath you in terms of your health. I mean, I went from running all the time to I can't run anymore because my body just gives me the big FU when I run for days. I can't do really high impact, high intensity. I mean, I do teach classes that are more high intensity, but we're not jumping around all the time. I don't do HIIT type things necessarily in terms of really jumping or anything like that. I have to really manage stress. I have to really manage my sleep. I don't go out late at night. I really watch my diet. These are all things that I've done that I've really reined in, and I feel like my body has responded so well. I still, struggle with the symptoms, but not like at first. At first, I felt like my life was in slow motion. Literally, I felt like my brain was in slow motion. I get these weird brain things that happen that I can only describe as like a little like mini seizure. It's a very weird experience, like both in my brain and then things that happen throughout my body when it happens. And yeah, everything that I've done has helped so much. I went to a functional neurologist for a while that helped a lot. So I do so much to keep the toxins out of my body, whether it's with food, whether it's the ingredients and the things I put on my body, my laundry detergent, all the things, really, really manage stress, protect my sleep. I'm so thankful that I work from home, because sleep can also be an issue just with, the stuff that I deal with. It's a symptom, you can have sleep issues. And I also am a night owl by design, I guess. And so it can be hard for me to fall asleep. And then I'll get in my best sleep toward the like morning hours. If I were waking up at 6 a.m, I would be so tired. And that's something that really, really like flares my symptoms really bad. So I'm very thankful. I feel like God really put me in a position that I needed to be in. So diet, toxins, stress, sleep, exercise. So not too much. I had to peel back, but the classes I teach are so wonderful. And especially when I'm teaching soul fusion, which used to be PIO, but you're doing things where you're crossing your right side to your left side. I might reach my right hand in a down dog, reach my right hand to my left foot, things like that throughout the class. And I feel like it really helps my brain, like connections, as well as it's good for me to teach because I'm talking the whole time. I'm having to like think on my feet, which when I'm really flared can be very difficult. I have mixed words up a lot of times before and sometimes not even known it, but I leave class feeling stronger. I can go into a class feeling like I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. And then I leave just feeling like my symptoms are lower. I feel more connected in my brain. I just feel better. So those are all things that I'm doing. Now, in my research, I discovered that upper cervical care is good for autoimmune conditions in general, and it's recommended for people with MS. And then I also was at the same time researching things for thyroid for my son and anxiety and things like that, ADHD, and found that it was recommended for all of that as well because it's all connected. Inflammation, right? That's where it all stems from. And so we both started going, and now like 4 years into it or however long it's been, I go once a month because I have a little more that I'm dealing with, and then he goes once every other month. And you always have the option to go in, like I'll share with you in a minute, to go in if you need an extra appointment. So it's been very helpful. I will say that when I first had all this stuff hit me, like smack me in the face, that was one of the biggest things. And it took a minute because once I got adjusted, I had to adjust to that adjustment. My doctor, well, I assume you experience this with any kind of upper cervical chiropractic care, but you get a first-time assessment. I got an x-ray, and then he examined posture and thermography and range of motion. I did not know how bad mine was because I was so used to just being able to turn a little bit and then it's like the rest of my torso would turn with it. And that was normal to me. So I didn't realize how bad it was. So I was quite out of alignment, had a stick straight neck, which I would say is fairly common. I've talked to several people where that's the same for them when they've never been to an upper cervical chiropractor. So, for me, it had been since I was a kid that I was adjusted. And so those are things, you want this nice curve in your upper cervical spine. The upper cervical spine is the C1 and C2, like right below your brain. Very important part of your body. Very important. And it's also like the most mobile joint. Like, hello, like you can move it every which way. And it's like the most important part of your body is attached to it. So it makes you kind of wonder what the heck. So needless to say, I really recommend it for everybody to do upper cervical chiropractor after I've learned all of this stuff, but it's quite common, I would almost say normal in a negative way, for people to have a misalignment. Because again, we're like, our heads are just like, we're like bobbleheads, right? And we're, it doesn't, you can be just doing something where you're jumping. I was in a car accident when I was a kid. I used to be quite rough. I was a tomboy. I've had things like, I had an injury when I was like bouncing on a big trampoline with my son. You know, I mean, there are things that we do all the time, not to mention the fact that we're like on computers and phones all the time. And so when our heads are bending forward, the amount of pressure weight-wise that is put on your upper cervical spine, it grows exponentially every little like half inch or so or less that your head goes down and you're looking down. And the amount of time we're doing that now is kind of crazy. So that puts a lot of pressure on your neck. You know, sleeping weird, not having correct posture, people being less active. And so you have less muscle to really hold your posture the way it needs to be. So many things, right? So we're kind of fighting an uphill battle. And then when you are out of alignment, a ton of things can happen. A lot of inflammation. I mean, think of it as like the motherboard, like a computer, and then all those wires connected, sending signals to the rest of your body. So if you're out of alignment, then you're going to have like some communication issues. Things are going to be a little bit like, I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you, or kinked so that you're not getting communication. I would like to have my doctor on here at some point to explain things. I had him do a talk in my town at one point, and it was really good. He has a really great way of explaining the whole thing. But I will just read from a website that I will share with you. Some of the issues that you have are like numbness and tingling. Obviously, I think that's pretty obvious. Like if you have some kind of kink up here, then you're gonna like have neurological symptoms in terms of numbness and tingling, pain, stiffness, weakness, like around the neck. But you can also have things like headaches, migraines, like I shared, sinus issues, vertigo, seizures, TMJ, fatigue, which is something that really improved for me when I started getting adjusted. Fatigue, eye problems, hearing issues, immune system problems, chronic illness, more. So, and like I shared, it's been recommended for things like thyroid issues, autoimmune issues in general, which is inflammation. Think autoimmune inflammation, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, and it goes on and on and on. So I have definitely noticed a difference in myself and my kiddo. And as I started to say before, when I first got put back into alignment, it took my body some time to adjust to that basically more normal way of being, that healthier alignment, you know, because obviously I'd been that way for so many years. So not only was my neck stick straight, my head was slightly off, which I'm sure you couldn't tell, except in the x-ray you could tell. So when you're off a little bit, it'll go down the line where if your head's off a little bit, then, you know, the rest of you is going to try to like compensate, and you could end up having hip issues or knee issues, you know, because everything's trying to like find that homeostasis, find that balance. And it ends up not working very well. Your body does the best it can, but you really need to fix the root cause. So when I got adjusted, it felt weird at first. And you can basically open up the gates in terms of detox and lots of things. So it took me some time to adjust, and I didn't hold my alignment for a little bit because your body, it just wants to go back to where it was. You know, that has been its new normal, even if it's not healthy. So once I really adjusted, though, it's been amazing. I really feel like when I have all those things in check, my sleep, my diet, my upper cervical care, the stress, the exercise, that things are pretty even. You know, I notice small symptoms, but it's not like this huge flare. Well, recently, I went hiking, and which I hike all the time. I hike like weekly. And I don't know what it was, but I think that, you know, I was talking and you're moving your head when you're talking. And I think I probably stepped down maybe like as my head moved, or maybe a little further down than I expected. I don't know, but I felt my head kind of just like go back, you know, and it felt weird. Like it wasn't meant to do that. And, you know, you just feel this little, not a crunch. I didn't hear a crunch, but I just felt like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. And it felt a little tender. Went on with my day and was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna need, like in my next appointment, I'm sure I'll be out of alignment. That night, I started to have a little bit of pressure, a little bit of a headache, which is not something I deal with. And then, you know, when you're like that, when you have that alignment issue, you start to not feel very good, almost flu-like, you know? So anyway, fast forward, I tried to like be strong and make it through the week, and I couldn't. It just got worse and worse, and went back in on Friday. Needless to say, I am telling you, it was a huge reminder, because when I start feeling sick, you know, if I'm not feeling good in some way, my neurological and autoimmune symptoms like explode. So it's been rough. And anyway, it was a really good reminder of why I do it. So that is just my personal story. You know, I feel like it's just been something very necessary and very valuable in my life. I think whenever I hear people who get sick a lot or things like that, like having that alignment in your spine is so good for your immune system in general. So that's something I'm always kind of thinking of that stuff. It can impact your gut health. It can impact your hormones, you know, because we're not a car. We're not like, okay, the check engine light is on, check the oil, change the air filter. We're alive. We're so much more than that. And everything really interacts, and the signals that can like be misfiring can impact so many different things. I would highly recommend looking into it. And one more thing, so I actually travel an hour to see my upper cervical chiropractor, because I live in a town where there isn't one. We have chiropractors, you know, you make your own decision, but for me, I felt most comfortable going to somebody who just dealt with the upper cervical spine. And I don't want my neck twisted. What they do is, after checking your basically how happy your nervous system is or unhappy with thermography, and if needed, like checking your range of motion, checking your posture, checking certain things to make sure, do you need an adjustment or not, which I really appreciate, because I don't want to get adjusted if I don't need it. But if you do need an adjustment, then you get down on a low little table, you know, you're on your knees. My spot is over here, so I turn my head, I'm on the table, and my doctor just like pushes. It's like pushing that, I can't remember if it's the C1 or probably C2, back into place. And then you go into this very lovely resting room in a zero gravity chair and rest for like 15 or 20 minutes and just let everything kind of calm down in a dark room. And anyway, that is what has really been one of the biggest things that has helped me, and I will continue to do it. But I've, you know, especially this time around where I've had like this little injury, it's like been such a bleep. It really has shown me, oh, this is why you do it. This is why you do it. It's been a huge reminder, you know, not that I needed it, not that I was ever considering not doing it, but, you know, to have that feeling of like, oh, yep, all this is connected. When I'm out of alignment that much, I feel it all, you know. But on the flip side, when I'm staying in alignment, then it's one thing that helps me manage my symptoms really well. It's just like, you know, that piece of the puzzle. It's like having the whole team, you know, all hands on deck, the food, the sleep, the stress, the exercise, the upper cervical chiropractic care, you know, staying in alignment in your spine. Your spine is so important from your head all the way down. I'll share a link to my doctor. He's in Tigard, Oregon, if you're interested. To me, it's so worth it. Again, I work from home, so I feel like I'm spoiled because I can make that time in my week to drive up, have my appointment. I usually stop at Whole Foods, make it a trip, you know, because we don't have Whole Foods here. But it has been an investment that is worth, it's just invaluable. It's been invaluable. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for hanging out with me. And if you've had any experience with an upper cervical chiropractor, then I would love to hear. I also have to say that I've had people tell me over the years, oh, I'm dealing with migraines. And every time I've said something about my own experience, like I'm speaking migraines now from back when I was a kid, and somebody's gone in and had their neck adjusted, same thing, their migraines go away. So it's not always the cause, you know, especially if you're a woman, it can be your hormones, but that tends to be a pretty big deal. You can find me at thatvibrantlife.com, Facebook, thatvibrantlife, or Instagram, that_vibrantlife. All right, guys, have a good evening.